Another day in paradise.
Well, it was short notice, but I'm glad we were able to come together today.
Yeah, thanks. I know it's been a while, but I think we both agreed this was overdue. I thought it was overdue, at least.
I don't know. I just don't know if this is the place to be talking about stuff like this, okay? This is personal. And what even is this therapy office? There's a cat here.
This is therapy. I don't know how much more personal it can get.
Okay, alright, let's back it up a little bit, okay? Familiarity can indeed breed some weird things. So, Green Day, looks like you're presenting yourself a little bit differently. You look a little bit different than the last time I've seen you.
I put this on for him. Just when I first met him, I was wearing stuff like this, and it was passionate, it was intense, it was romantic. Now I just keep worrying we've lost that spark.
Hey, I've never asked you once to do what didn't come naturally, okay? I've told you over and over again how much the natural progression of an artist's focus means to me.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with something that has been talked about before. So, Mike, is Green Day right? Is there any fear in you of losing that spark?
It doesn't seem that simple to me. I mean, I know that spark is still there, and any two people who spend that much time together are going to eventually fall into some kind of routine, right?
Yes, and by the way, how is your romantic relationship?
It's great, Doc. Absolute love of my life. Couldn't imagine life without him. They gave me this Taylor Swift hoodie. It's the comfiest hoodie I own. Can we please get back to my relationship with influential 90s alternative / pop punk band Green Day right now?
Of course, I'm sorry. And I'm not a doctor, I just have the hat of one.
Well, it's the same principle. I respect and admire the way that throughout their career, they've continued to make music that reflects where they are at that moment. Musically, artistically, creatively.
Yeah, but you don't like them. You don't like me the way that you did when I was wearing stuff like this all the time.
Hey, come on. That's unfair.
Well, hold on. Green Day's having some genuine concern here. Respecting an artist's trajectory and their status is one thing, but liking it is a whole different ballgame. Green Day, what makes you say this?
Saviors. I did this whole big grand gesture just like Mike wanted. He was so grossed out by the production on Father of All that these songs are all just guitar, bass, and drums. I don't even put that many weird filters over the vocal delivery anymore. And then Dilemma, the single, I would have thought he loved that. It has these big, distorted, major key bass riffs just like he likes. And you want to know what he did? He makes faces the whole time he's listening to it on an airplane. And then he gets off the airplane, goes to his brother and says, "Man, that album sucked. It sucked." That's what he said. I don't know how to make him happy anymore. I don't know.
Okay. First of all, I kind of like Dilemma. I definitely don't think it's your best work, but I'm not expecting that of you. Secondly, why do you care about making me happy? You're one of the most famous and influential rock bands of the last 30 years. You still have millions of fans that would sell out your arenas.
Well, it's because as a visualized personification of your relationship with highly influential 90s alternative rock / pop punk band Green Day, I know you want me to make you happy. It's all over your face. And I don't know how to do it anymore.
Okay, this is an impasse, and one that I'm guessing you've thought of before. Mike, is there any truth to what Green Day is saying here?
Yeah, it's true. All of it. And Green Day's right. I wanted to like it. I wanted nothing more than for this record to invoke those same feelings that made me so intensely positive about this band at several points in my life. But I can't put my pride aside to sit here and act like Saviors is a good record. Because it's not. It sucks. It sucks eggs, man.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
We've gotten to something pretty substantial now.
And nobody likes it, but it's out there. And we're getting to the core of it. Mike, go in depth a little bit. What makes you say this about this record?
Well, it's really just that,
Hold on a second. I gotta go into a headspace real quick.
Okay, that's a little better. Now I can think. Saviors on paper does indeed seem like I've gotten what I asked for. Father of All was so abhorrent that it was going to require a step back in some way. At least production-wise, it seems like the band noticed the feedback. Or maybe they just internally felt what I had initially felt when taking my first listen to that lead single. It sounds like garbage, man. There's no reason on God's green earth for a band that once prided itself on the filthiness of their guitar tones that those lead instruments should be so compressed. It sounds like they're being played in another room in your house with the door closed. My first instinct as someone who wants to look like I know what I'm talking about is to blame the producer. The primary producer, or at least one of them listed on Father of All, is Butch Walker. I made a comment during the Panic at the Disco video. It was a comment in passing where I said,
"Blow Butch Walker up. Make Panic great again."
I used it as what I thought was a representation of a more overarching sentiment amongst fans of that band that had simultaneously been raising Ryan Ross to martyr status in order to cope with the fact that their favorite band seemed to have lost something that made them wholly special. That was obvious from their debut. However, this doesn't seem to be a common sentiment. Butch Walker is a really respected producer at this point, and based on his activity and from everything I've ever seen of the guy, he seems fine. Obviously, I don't know him, he just seems like a good guy, a revered producer, obviously in demand. He's got production credits with a ton of big names: Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Avril Lavigne. The guy just knows how to produce with hitmakers. Where I come to know him from, however, is from the sphere of rock bands that Green Day were a part of in the 2000s. Bands that were similarly big around this time, and the records that he helped produce for these bands all kind of represent some grander piece of the puzzle where they've taken some missteps. Vices and Virtues wasn't that bad. And then you get to Too Weird to Live and all the way to Viva Las Vengeance. Again, not objectively terrible albums. It's when you view them comparatively to these records viewed as truly special that preceded them. It's not too surprising that these aren't the records that have attained some kind of mythical headcanon status. He was on Raditude. He was on Pacific Daydream. He was not on the White Album. He was not on Everything Will Be Alright in the End. And I'm not trying to compare him to Rick Ocasek, truly. I have no ill will towards this man whatsoever. And I really should state that he's not the sole producer on these albums either. This is a framing device. I'm sorry, Butch. I am sorry, but Fall Out Boy's Mania, an album typically regarded as their worst and one that the band seems to hold no favorable view of themselves, if the video for one of their singles off their newest album is anything to go by. In the video for Hold Me Like a Grudge, Mania is the first album to literally physically disintegrate on screen. And look, he has a production credit on Don't You Know Who I Think I Am, and Infinity on High deep cut that I definitely kept on repeat during my initial experiences with that album. He was on Save Rock and Roll, which, yeah, not my cup of tea, but a lot of people I know who like Fall Out Boy really still love that album. I mean, Infinity on High opened with a freaking Jay-Z feature, man.
Welcome. It's here.
I mean, it ripped, but it ripping aside, there has to be a band at the core of all of this that is consciously moving in a different direction. Butch Walker seemed to be the guy that these bands brought in to move them into those new directions. And it's so far from a statement on the man. He's accomplished more than I ever will hope to in my entire life. It's just a statement on the albums. Like Green Day now with Saviors, Fall Out Boy perhaps subconsciously feeling either the audience or themselves wanting to recover a piece of something that could have been lost, teamed up on their newest album with the producer that made their best record. Folia Du was loathed at the moment for all the reasons it should have been loved. This was the successful blueprint for an angsty band pivoting into a slick pop direction. It still had this unmistakable character to it that's unable to be duplicated. The results on their newest album have added up to such. Amongst those that I talked to that have seen the light of the Folia Du rainbow, it's far easier to get what they're going for here and appreciate it as such. It's not a perfect album. It's got a clunker here and there, but the best tracks on it are far and away the best songs that the band has put out in a decade. Yet the more I think about it with Green Day, the more I think a ton hasn't changed. Yes, Father of All was produced by Butch Walker. Yes, it sounds like the Target commercial version of Greaser Lark Punk. But Saviors was not produced by Butch Walker. It was produced by Rob Cavallo. And it still sounds like the Target version of Greaser Lark Punk. Maybe that's a bit too harsh. Maybe the Taco Bell commercial version of Greaser Lark Punk. What I'm saying is it's not Butch Walker's fault here, okay? I'm being nice. I'm done using this innocent and by all accounts very nice guy as a framing device in my shitty music critique, okay? Everyone say thanks, Mike, for not using this innocent guy as a framing device anymore because he's a cool guy, because that's the only way I'm going to stop feeling guilty about it. But this is exactly what I mean. At the core of these records is a band. And on Saviors, it's a band that sounds lost on how to sound like they mean it anymore.
I mean, this is Rob Cavallo, the guy that produced that. A record that is so good that when I bought it at the record store and handed it to the guy across the counter, we both looked at each other. He was like, "Oh, you buying this, man?" I was like, "Yeah, it's the best one." And he looked right at me and went, "It is the best one." The best one of a band that has just thoroughly dominated rock music several points within the last 30 years. It's the best one.
Oh, would you please let it go? Have you ever considered that this might be your fault? That you know somewhere deep down I'm not going to be the same band I was 30 years ago?
Look, I don't expect that of you. Okay, I've said that. And it's frustrating. It's just frustrating. Because when I had those first real experiences with Insomniac, as a kid who was starting college, it all made sense. It all made sense. Every reason why you, highly popular and influential alternative / pop punk 90s band Green Day, were popular made sense. That stuff, when you're just like a college freshman who doesn't know his way in the world, it's some of the most life-affirming stuff you could ever hope to hear.
That's not when we met. Your brother had an International Superhits DVD and you watched it in the back of a minivan.
And I've loved you ever since. Okay, it's the same producer. Big deal. What about this album made you feel so strongly negative? Well, there's the Pink ripoff, for one.
What are you talking about?
Come on, let's not play dumb.
I don't know what you're talking about. Pink ripoff? What? I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you...
Really? Okay. Now you see why I was making faces, right? I can't contain it. Yeah. Christ. Okay. Keep going. Keep doing therapy and whatever. I don't know. I need a second. That's it. That's the emotion that just like every song on this record brings out of you. I'm not expecting them to sound like any other versions of themselves. I'm just looking for you to be able to convey this heightened emotion that you're obviously going for without sounding like your corporate board members.
Corporate board member? How dare you? How fucking dare you, motherfucker? We are the band that made American fucking Idiot and 21st Century fucking Breakdown. We swear all the fucking time, and we hate Trump.
I know Green Day. And unlike, I think, other people's immediate negative connotation that they'd have about a band that's always had the ability to sell out an arena at the drop of a hat, I truly do believe that you feel that way. I do. Just hold on 1 second, okay?
American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown are fondly remembered for good reason. However, in retrospect, as a jaded and at one time emotionally stunted adult, it's definitely not their best material. The rock critic throughline ends up measuring up pretty closely to reality here, in my opinion. Dookie is one of the tightest records of its kind. Insomniac showcased some edgier maturity while reinforcing what was done really well and improving upon it. Nimrod represents those first big steps outside of their comfort zone that would end up paying off to the tune of a multi-platinum record and tons of airplay later. All three have this irrevocable truth that they're very simple, Nimrod being the least of which, but still. And this is far from a detriment. It's perhaps the unquestioned positive trait and the reason why the band began to dominate attention in a 90s rock scene that was definitely still aching for some grit at this point. Their superpowers on these records laid firmly in a few key spots, and the simplicity is certainly one of them. Another ingredient in that recipe is engineering and production. This is a total necessity when the main sources of sound on your album are coming from a singer, a guitar, a bass, a drum kit, and maybe an overdub of one of those four I just listed. If any of these records were engineered like nobody would still be talking about them. But they're not. They're absolutely perfect for this band at this time. The snare is so punchy, the guitar rides the line between noisy and brick-walled pop appeal, and Billie Joe sounds like he's right there in front of you. It's leveled absolutely perfectly to recreate the feeling of hearing a live band that can put on a killer performance. And let's not get it twisted, they can still play. Part of the reason I even made this video to begin with is because I saw them play on New Year's Eve, and yeah, they sounded good. They can even play old and sound pretty tight doing it. But when it gets time to get in the studio, even on this album where there are a few clearer, deliberate reaches towards this type of sound, the band just puts out material that is just obviously subpar. Then we can reach into fan favorites, American Idiot and particularly 21st Century Breakdown. I like these too, and I'd be a liar to say anything contradictory. My old iTunes history says otherwise. I single out 21st Century Breakdown because with Saviors, it feels like its closest point of reference in a lot of ways. Especially when talking about political theming. And I mean, sure, there was Revolution Radio, but come on. Both American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown are immediate points of interest because they sound totally different from that legendary 3-album run. Warning had underwhelmed, and American Idiot was a big step in a different direction that paid off. Sure, at their core, maybe Basket Case and American Idiot, the song, are superficially similar. Green Day's open secret is that the major key power chord-laden structure has always been easy to learn, but it's been apparent since Dookie that they were the masters of it. Yet American Idiot is, at points, produced like a freaking cast recording of a Broadway musical, which it actually is. It actually is a Broadway musical. And in retrospect, yeah, it works. I bet you thought I was going to say it sucks, but no, it works pretty dang well. The cleanliness is what made all of these tracks easy choices to become smash radio singles. And if you weren't there, you didn't know. They were. The rock stations are probably still playing Holiday. That song might actually have never left the chart. The band and their now longtime producer Cavallo definitely tapped into something special here. And I'm sure they're both immensely proud of it and still opening some checks from it to this day. 21st Century Breakdown took this even further. That record is more everything from American Idiot. It's cleaner, it's sweeter, it's more conceptual with its characters, storylines, and more politics. We've reached firmly into arena rock territory here, as easy to see by its biggest songs. And hey, there's certainly an undeniable charm to this. Old heads and very young heads may not get this intrinsically, but its particular brand of elevated melodrama hit pretty differently at the time of its release. From a developmental standpoint, it's also very easy to tell that this was a total passion project for Billie Joe, now a figure within rock that most of us had been accustomed to following and enjoying. You don't fill up an 18-track concept record unless you're totally sold on what you're doing, and it sounded like it here. Billie Joe has very clearly to this point mastered writing snarky, brief, yet endlessly memorable hooks. Whether it's on Dookie and Insomniac's dry, confrontationally simple production, or 21st Century Breakdown's orchestral character pieces, The band's ability to write these peppy, energetic, major key, sticky choruses is maybe the most singled out evergreen key to their continued relevance, period. The chorus game here is just unparalleled. Basket Case, legendary. Longview, so good you don't realize it's about cranking your hog. Armitage Chase, I love this song and I don't even know how to pronounce it. But that song, the opener off Insomniac, maybe the catchiest they've ever written. Geek Stink Breath, that song barely even has a chorus. It's basically just a 2-minute chorus, and it's one of the best songs of the decade. Redundant, beautiful. Hitchin' a Ride, total classic. So good. American Idiot title track, obviously and plainly iconic. Letter Bomb, expertly written. Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, not even going to focus on the chorus. That one's catchy from the first line of the first verse. 21 Guns, definitely some obvious lasting appeal, even if they burst right into the Full House theme song.
And then we're left here. Look, if you truly want to know my thoughts, I need Green Day to leave the room briefly, okay?
Green Day, are you okay with that?
I don't know. Sure. Whatever.
No. You know what? I changed my mind. It's not fair to you. You deserve to hear it too, but I can't hold this back any longer, okay? You want to know what I really think about Saviors? Milquetoast. Banal. Toothless. Gutless. The sound of a rock band completely phoning it in. Maybe it's just pent-up rage from that last one. And you know what? Yeah, Father of All is probably worse. At least this one tones it down a little bit on that total fucking garbage wall of sound loudness war 2000s radio rock band production. At least it doesn't have that evisceratingly dreadful Oh Yeah song on it that does the fucking Joan Jett sample. That is one of the laziest pieces of songwriting that I've ever heard in my whole life. That's maybe the laziest fucking song I have ever heard from any band that claims to care about anything, let alone big societal and cultural issues. Are you kidding me? But it still sucks. The album still sucks fucking eggs, and I think I hate it, but I don't care if the production is a little bit better. It sucks.
You spent like a third of this video so far just talking about how much you cared about production.
Okay, well, shut the hell up. I don't care. Not when Bobby Socks is the songwriting on a fucking single to this record. I don't care then. This isn't the kind of endearing simplicity, sarcastic joke, or heightened melodrama that made Green Day such an important band at several points in their career. This is none of that. This is nothing. This is the sound of a band not giving a shit. Maybe Father of All actually was better, because at least it's an entertaining disaster. I am so sick and tired of listening to one of the formerly most edgy and snarkily witty bands on the planet sing about sock hops, girlfriends, and jukeboxes. I'm so fucking tired of it. If I turn on one more Green Day record and I hear Billy Joe Armstrong do an unironic woo oh, I think I might do something that classifies me as a danger to myself and others.
All right, man, let's cool it a little bit. I'm not a psychiatrist.
No, I'm not cooling it. You wanted it, you got it. This is the heart of the matter. I just heard Look Ma No Brains in a Taco Bell commercial.
Okay, well, it's like you said, they were all over the radio, right? What's the difference? The radio doesn't exist anymore.
You're right. Nobody cares about the radio anymore. So why am I hearing the band that wrote f***ing Brain Stew and Hitchin' a Ride write the most insipid shit of their entire career at this point? At any other point when the radio was still a thing, this would be the exact type of sellout move that was reviled and viewed as the worst part of any band's career for the entire rest of their career and the rest of time. They already had their big move to pop radio. It's a dearly beloved album that is still considered by fans to be essential
So why in the ever-loving at this point in their career am I listening to them make vapid, spineless, rockabilly, LARP, greaser, baby boomer bait, nursery rhyme shit that slots in seamlessly on the commercials on my cable package between advertisements for the Gerber Life Affordable Grow Up Plan and the Sonic Peanut Butter Bacon Cheeseburger?
Life insurance for
I have to go outside for a second. Is that okay?
You've got until the hour. I do not care what you do.
Meet me at the usual spot, okay?
It's not that it's an objectively awful record. It's that compared to the things that these three dudes have done and accomplished, it's worse than that. If they hadn't already conquered the peak, putting out 2 records like this back to back would destroy your f***ing legacy. I keep saying it over and over again, but I don't expect Green Day to sound like they did on any of their classic records. I just want them to sound like they care again, and they do not. They act like they want to be doing this, they look like they want to be doing this, they talk like they want to be doing this, but they sound completely and totally checked out. Look, at the danger of sounding like a broken record a few times on this channel, I was having doubts about whether or not I was even going to continue making videos as recently as a few days ago. I know I'm probably venting about the meta stuff so often now that it feels like some type of contrived, public-facing, please subscribe or delete my channel type stunt, but it's real. It's all very real. I have doubts and fears about this stuff, and I have a bad tendency to overshare that. This whole thing, basically it's a hobby now, but what if it isn't in the future? What if my silly clocks on the keyboard and rambles into a microphone make a discernible impact on the world around me with a pointed impact directly on my own life? It's horrifying. I used to wish for that more than anything else in the world. And now that there are these pieces of my life that have come together, the thought that this silly little YouTube channel might be capable of doing that one day kind of frightens me. But it's always something like this and a band like Green Day that makes me want to run back to it. A band like this and how much they've meant to me personally will always make me want to ramble on and on like an idiot about them, and it's just too dang fun. And while, yes, I wish Green Day were capable of selling the fact that they were having any fun at all, the fun I have will probably keep me spewing word vomit for a little while. And more importantly,
The fun I have when listening to those records means that I'm never going to stop listening to them. There's something deep-seated within myself whenever any of them come on that just makes it impossible to skip. There's always still love. I'm glad you came to that, Mike. I really am. And I think more often than not, when you're in these types of situations, you'll find both in yourself and in the other person or influential 90s alternative / pop punk band that the love is still there. And from that point, you have common ground to start to solve your problems. So I'm really glad we could end on that. Hello, I am home. Babe, did you pull up far in the driveway on purpose? What the fuck are you people doing in my house?
It's peanut butter bacon time, peanut butter bacon time, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter bacon in this honey bag, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter shake, peanut butter bacon in a burger and shake. It's peanut butter bacon time, peanut butter bacon time, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter bacon in this honey bag, peanut butter bacon, peanut butter shake, peanut butter bacon in a burger and shake.
What? What? Come here if you want to come here. Come on. You're just staring at me. Don't chew that. Don't. Stop. Okay, stop chewing that. Stop.